Tuesday morning, and that means we get to check in with Quincy Mayor Thomas Koch for our City Hall update. How are you today, Mayor?
Doing fine, Joe. How are you?
Just barely see you through the fog there.
You know what?
That's
Crazy weather.
Weather has been a challenge, that's for sure.
Not like September usually. September's usually one of the great months of the year, weather-wise.
I know. It's usually bright, sunny, crisp days and cool, comfortable nights.
Although, you look around the world, boy, oh boy, Libya flooding, China flooding, the Morocco earthquake. I mean, it could be a lot worse. So
it's true, yeah.
Keep it in perspective, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And I know you and your team are now preparing for possible impacts from Hurricane Lee this weekend.
Yes, we are. As you know, the models have shifted westward a little bit. And I guess the storm has hung around so long that the high pressure that was protecting us is weakened. So there's a chance we could have some impact. So we are meeting as department heads and preparing.
What are some of the possible problems that could erupt from that?
Well, first of all, the ground is saturated right now. So if you have some serious winds, you could have a lot of trees that will topple over because of the saturation of the ground. You always have the flooding issue impact. What kind of surge will we have? And of course, the regular rain event part of it and how that affects some of our neighborhoods. So those are three major challenges.
Yeah. I'd strongly encourage folks to sign up for the Quincy alerts messages from the city website. Any incidents that do occur will get transmitted through that, and folks will know what's going on. It's a great way to keep in touch with your community for sure.
Absolutely.
Mayor, as you're well aware, community meeting this evening at Central Middle School regarding the state's Welcome Center at Eastern Nazarene College. And what do you hope to come out of tonight's meeting?
Well, I hope to clarify a number of issues for the public. There's a lot of misconceptions about what this is, the impacts it may have. But as I said yesterday to a Globe reporter, we have a tradition in the city of having meetings. If there's someone looking for a license for something, we have a meeting. If there's a development in the neighborhood, we have a meeting. So I think people were a little surprised that there was no meeting for an issue like this. And we had encouraged one by the state, and then, of course, it got put off, and here we are. So I'm grateful that the state and ENC will be there to kind of explain the process, what's happening statewide, what is the goal of all this, and going forward, what it means for Quincy. So we'll continue to monitor it. We'll be there tonight and introduce the parties from both the state and ENC who will be addressing the crowd. So, good information, sharing information is always a good thing.
Mm-hmm. I know one of your concerns was how any children from that center might impact the Quincy school system. Has that happened, do you know?
No, it hasn't. It was one of my concerns. There was a lot of questions we had right out of the box that nobody could answer. And part of that is because this all happened so quickly with the state. I think they were just trying to manage this thing without a whole lot of resources initially. So the questions that I had to the state couldn't be answered because they just didn't know. So, but at this point, we haven't had one child register in the Quincy Public Schools.
Oh, okay. As you're well aware, there were two separate demonstrations outside that Welcome Center this past weekend. One protesting the center, one supporting the center. I know you are aware of both, and what is your reaction to those?
Well, let's keep in mind the one that was opposed to it. None of those people are Quincy people. Those are folks that, quite frankly, are cowards. They go to different communities. They wear masks and try to intimidate people. They know how not to cross the line, Joe. We had the police monitoring that, and if they had done anything that would have violated the law, they would have been locked up. That's despicable, disgusting, and there's no room in Quincy for that. And then, yes, we did have a group of other citizens expressing their support for the migrants, and so to some degree that's democracy, but I don't subscribe to, nor do I support or encourage any kind of hate-filled demonstration, and that first one clearly was that.
Sure. Of course, yesterday also, the, hard to believe, 22nd anniversary of the 9/11 terror attacks, and I know the Quincy Fire Department had their annual ceremony that you attended.
Yes, it is hard to believe it's 22 years, Joe.
Yeah.
In some ways, it feels like yesterday, and in other ways, it feels like 100 years ago. I
Yeah.
mean, life continues to just chug along. But boy, oh boy, that put things in perspective. It was devastating to this country. And then, of course, we changed forever. I mean, the way we operate, the way you go to an airport, security everywhere. It's unfortunate in one sense. I mean, obviously, we want to be safe and secure, but it did change this country really forever. But when you look at every aspect of what occurred, and of course the innocent lives on those planes that we lost, and two were people from Quincy, was just horrific. And then, of course, you see the scenes of firefighters and EMS and police running into the buildings to help these people come out. And many of those firefighters, they knew going in that chances are they wouldn't be coming out. I mean, that's pretty amazing and heroic when you think about it. And then, from that day, I think everybody didn't know what was coming next. There was that uncertainty and fear in everybody's minds. They shut the airspace down, which never happens in this country. But, it's important we don't forget these things. As I said at the event, the follow-up, the unity as a country was amazing, incredible. The patriotism, the churches were filled. No matter what faith you were, people were praying, and people were entering the service voluntarily to defend the nation. It was the aftermath was just remarkable, us coming together as a country. But certainly we should never forget the lives that were lost, and never forget the heroics of those individuals, not just the folks that were police and fire and EMS people, but just citizens that did their part along the way when everything occurred. National Geographic has done an incredible job. I don't know if you saw any of them, but the number of, like a mini series on different aspects of what occurred. And the bad is in those. Obviously, that was bad. That was evil. But so much good comes out of evil all the time, and that's what makes our country so wonderful.
It's important to know, too, Chief Jackson mentioned this yesterday, that the many first responders who succumbed to injuries years later from all the toxic chemicals and substances they were exposed to during that event.
That's exactly right. And I know Commissioner Joe Finn, retired out of Boston, he did a lot on the job to mitigate the cancer exposure that firemen have. I think their rate is 14 to 15% higher than the average citizen. Mm-hmm. So we followed that suit, and we've done a lot in our stations on the gear to make sure we protect our guys, because they're going in harm's way for our benefit. So we should do everything we can to make sure that they're safe in their job, and we learned a lot from that incident in that regard, for sure.
Yeah. And I know that the Tunnels to Towers mobile demonstration's coming to Quincy, Mayor?
Yes, it is. We're delighted to have it. It's I haven't physically seen it yet, but I've certainly seen images of it. Mm-hmm. And it has a number of exhibits in this very, very large, well-put-together trailer that tells the story of the day and some of the people of the day. So, yes, we'll have that for a couple of days in Quincy. It's important, just as we get together at different times of the year regarding our history as a country and events that occurred in our country, it's important that we remember these things. As I said, remember the heroes, remember those that passed, but also to reinforce that we should not take for granted those ideals that were under attack that day. I mean, it's pretty remarkable, the hate for this country because of the freedoms we have. So I think it's important we do remember these things. And, of course, we did have, Susan McElhaney McCabe died as one, and we had another gentleman by name. The first name just went out of my head, Joe, but Connors. Those were two people with Quincy roots that were on planes that day that we lost. I know there's family members of both of those families still around, so we'll probably in some way honor them by the exhibit as well.
Oh, okay. This is next Tuesday and Wednesday, and is it right in downtown?
Yeah, the General's, right by the General's Bridge.
Okay, very good. Another event we should not forget is this coming Friday, actually, the ceremony for POWs and MIAs out at the Marina Bay Clock Tower.
Yes, Friday is POW MIA Day, and in every war and conflict we've had POWs that had come home. Some died in camps. And of course, there's still a lot of men missing in action from those various wars over the centuries and decades, and we should never forget them as well. So it's a nice thing to bring people together and take a moment to remember the sacrifice of those individuals.
I like to always end with a positive note, Mayor, and this coming Thursday evening at Squantum School, talk about a new Squantum School.
Very exciting, exciting, and positive, as you say. We're on our fifth new school since we've been in office, and Squantum is the next piece. It was an original building, and then there were two additions over time that were added to it. It wasn't quality construction. It's lived its course, and it's time to replace it, just as we've done for some of the other buildings. So we're meeting with the community Thursday night at the Squantum School Gymnasium, and will be a listening session, Joe, because we want to hear from the neighborhood, the parents, about conditions today, concerns. I know that drop-off and pick-up traffic will certainly be some of those things identified. I know we also, Public Works-wise, we have some challenges to deal with some drainage issues, and whatever else comes up. What I don't want to do is go in with a plan that's finished, tell people this is what it's going to be. I'd rather start with, okay, here's the team, here's the process. We want to hear from you folks before we spend too much effort on a design. So I think it'll be very helpful.
Okay. It's 6:30 this Thursday evening in the gym, I'm guessing?
Yes.
Very good, because there's no other place in that school right now.
Oh, that's right.
Kevin Patrick Connors, Mayor. I just looked it up.
There we go. Yeah, his brother Doug still lives in Quincy. I see Doug once in a while. I almost said Doug, but thank you for that.
Absolutely. Appreciate your time as always. Have a wonderful day.
You also, Joe.
Thanks,
Take care.
Yep, bye-bye.